Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Chef Vic Cuisine. Today, we're making glazed donuts. With this recipe, you'll learn how to make a traditional glazed donut without using a donut pan. And this creates a ton of donuts that can fill a kitchen table first thing in the morning. So, let's get started. Alright, for the ingredients, we're going to start with the donuts, and we're going to need 2 1/4-ounce yeast packets, a 1/4 cup of warm water, about 105 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 to 46 degrees Celsius. 1½ cups of lukewarm milk, scalded and then cooled. Half a cup of sugar. 1 teaspoon of salt. 2 eggs, half a cup of shortening, 5 cups of all-purpose flour, and some vegetable oil for frying. And for the donut glaze, we're going to need 2½ cups of powdered sugar, a 1/4 cup of milk, and a 1/4 cup of light corn syrup. Alright, so to get the recipe started, we're going to add the yeast to our large bowl on a stand mixer, and then follow that by adding in our 1/4 cup of warm water. You want to mix the yeast and the water together, and then just set it aside for about 10 minutes, and the yeast should start to foam up and rise slightly. After the 10 minutes are up, we can now add in our milk, the granulated white sugar, the salt, the 2 eggs, the shortening, and 2 cups of the all-purpose flour. We want to turn the stand mixer now onto medium speed for about 2 minutes with a whisk attachment. And then once all these ingredients are well mixed, we can now add the rest of our flour to the bowl and mix it until it's just combined. And when you're adding the rest of the flour, I suggest using a hook attachment instead of the whisk attachment for this process. Because the dough has just been formed, it's going to be pretty sticky to the touch for now. So what you want to do in order to handle it is give it a light dusting of flour, as well as flour your hands. You want to gently knead the dough and separate it from the large bowl. Now, in a separate large bowl, or the clean version of the previous bowl you used, you want to lightly spray it with a non-stick cooking spray, and we can place our dough in this bowl. What I like to do is toss it a couple of times in the bowl so that all parts of the dough are coated with that non-stick cooking spray, and it will be at this point where we can cover the top of the bowl with plastic wrap. This will create the environment that the dough needs to rise, and we want to allow the dough to rise for 2 hours. And while we're waiting for it to rise, this is the perfect time to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel if you want to see more recipes like this one, and hit the bell icon to be notified when my next video drops. And make sure you stay until the end of this video for a sneak peek of the recipe coming next week. You won't want to miss this one. And so with a little TV magic, our 2 hours are up, and you can see how much larger our dough is now. So we can remove the plastic wrap covering, and what you want to do is punch the dough down and release that trapped air. In order to create the donuts, we need to create a lightly floured working surface. And that just needs to be a large, flat, clean cooking surface that you can use to roll out your dough. So we want to work with half of the dough at a time. So you can place your dough onto the flat working surface, and then using a dough cutter, split it in half and then set one side aside for now. With the first half of the dough, we want to use a rolling pin and roll out the dough until it's about 1/2 inch thick. And now we want to dip our donut cutters in flour. That allows the dough to separate pretty easily from the cutter itself. And so with a standard 3-inch diameter size donut cutter, we should be able to cut out 11 donuts as well as 11 donut holes with each half of the dough. And once we have these donuts and donut holes cut out, we want to place them onto some parchment paper or wax paper. And so with this recipe, not a single bit of dough is wasted. We're going to use the dough for the donuts as well as making delicious donut holes as well. So once you cut out your initial donuts and you still have leftover dough, you just want to combine that all together and roll it out again flat to about 1/2 inch thick again, and then continue to cut out your donuts and your donut holes. So once all your donuts and your donut holes are placed on the parchment paper, you just want to cover them loosely with plastic wrap and allow them to rise in a warm, room temperature like area for about 45 minutes. And while this half of the dough is rising, we can create the rest of our donuts with the remaining half of dough, following the similar process of rolling it out to 1/2 inch thick and cutting out our donuts and our donut holes. So now on to the fun part, the deep frying. So in either a deep saucepan or a deep fryer, we want to heat the vegetable oil to 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. And we want to fry the donuts 2 at a time, frying on one side of the donuts for 30 seconds, and then we want to flip them and then fry them for 30 more seconds, flip them one more time, and then fry them for 15 seconds and remove them from the hot oil. You can then place them on a paper towel lined plate, and then once all the excess oil drains away, you can place them on a cooling rack to cool. And just for a quick preview of what the texture looks like on the inside of these donuts, as you can see, they're light, airy, perfectly cooked on the outside as well as the inside. And as they are now, they are not terribly sweet. Most of the sweetness will come from the glaze that we're going to create. So back to the donuts, we just want to fry the remaining donuts 2 at a time, following the similar cooking pattern, where you fry one side for 30 seconds, flip them, fry them on the other side for 30 more seconds, and then flip them again back to the top side and fry for 15 seconds, and then remove them from the hot oil. You always want to aim for that light golden brown color on both sides of the donuts. That's a pretty good visual sign that they're done frying. And for the donut holes, they fry pretty quickly, so you normally would work with about 5 to 7 donut holes at a time. And all you need to do is fry them for about 25 seconds on both sides, and that should be enough time to fry them and then remove them from the hot oil. Just like the donuts, you just want to make sure that the donut holes have that light golden brown color on the outside as well. And just work in batches of 5 to 7 donut holes. If you use too many at a time, the oil will decrease in temperature and it'll end up making your donuts really soggy. And the same thing goes with the donuts I mentioned earlier. Only 2 at a time. If you do more than that, it's going to drop the temperature and the oil is going to seep into the donut and make it soggy, and that's definitely not what we want. Now we're ready to make our glaze, and it's really simple. All we need to do is add our powdered sugar, the milk, as well as the light corn syrup to a bowl and mix them all together until they're well combined. And once they are, you just want to microwave that for 30 seconds and that will create your glaze. And then all you need to do is dip each donut into that glaze and then return them to the cooling rack to allow the excess glaze to drip off and the current glaze to harden. And if you find yourself needing to create more glaze as you make a lot of donuts, all you need to do is have an additional 2.5 cups of powdered sugar, a 1/4 cup of milk, as well as a 1/4 cup of light corn syrup. But once all your donuts and the donut holes are dipped in the glaze, you can now serve these and enjoy. And just like that, you just made glazed donuts right at home. You can save yourself a trip to the donut shop and the money it costs to buy them with creating these donuts with basic ingredients that you probably already have in your house. With this recipe, you can now make the traditional fried donut without needing to use a donut pan. For a variation on this recipe, try dipping your donuts in your own favorite vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry frosting. The possibilities are endless. As always, this recipe and many more can be found in my cookbook, Chef Vic Cuisine Volume 2, Elevating Your Inner Chef. And that's available on Amazon, and I'll be sure to leave a link to that in my description box. You can also click the pop-up on this screen for more information on that as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel to see more recipes like this, and hit the bell icon to be notified when my next video drops. And stay tuned for next week, where I show you how to make this absolutely delicious and super easy to make Kung Pao chicken. Well, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next week on another episode of Chef Vic Cuisine, and until then, peace.